If there was ever a chance for a Digital Circus Season 2, the fandom completely killed it. And yeah, I know, nobody ever officially said Season 2 will be announced on this date. But trust me, that second season felt very real. There are several things that point to it. But today, we're talking about how the fandom ruined that potential Season 2 and any future Digital Circus sequels. When the show first came out, most people saw it as a family-friendly animated series. It had colorful characters, exaggerated designs, and a world that looked like something you'd find in almost any Disney Junior-style 3D show. But the further you get into the Digital Circus, the more you realize it wasn't made for everyone. Each episode becomes darker, more mature, and filled with themes that most young kids simply are not gonna understand. And that was the intention from the beginning. The story, the episodes, and even the ending were planned long before Digital Circus ever premiered. So how do you make more episodes when your core vision no longer connects with a large part of the audience? And we're not talking about random adventures where you just watch the characters do funny things. That's not what Digital Circus is about. Every episode revealed another mystery, another secret, or another layer of these characters. But now, I don't see that being nearly as possible. Now, let's go back to January 2023. Gooseworx posted this.
I just woke up, but goddamn, it feels good to finally be able to talk about the Amazing Digital Circus.
And then, 3 years later, she posted this.
I have considered never touching this franchise again with a 10-foot pole.
Well, that's quite a change. Little by little, Gooseworx started losing interest in the Digital Circus, and it wasn't because she got bored of it. As most people already know, it was because of the way parts of the fandom reacted whenever they didn't like something about the show. And even though she sometimes said that she didn't care what people thought about her series, it honestly seemed like she cared a lot, to the point where she deleted her own Reddit account just to stop seeing the comments there. So even if the Digital Circus still has the potential for more episodes, if the creator isn't happy anymore or simply runs out of patience, then how are we supposed to get more episodes? And then, the problem wasn't that fans criticized character designs, or that they had ideas they wanted to see in the show. The problem was that many people went directly after the creator herself, almost as if they needed someone to blame. They were not arguing with a company, they weren't arguing with a writer's room, they were arguing with Gooseworx. At that point, the conversation wasn't really about Digital Circus anymore, it was about her. She would give an honest opinion about something related to the show, and parts of the fandom would immediately attack her for it. Just imagine being personally attacked every day for years, season after season. I honestly don't think most people could handle that for very long. And all of this eventually led to the point where Gooseworx said she was considering never touching the franchise again once it was finished. So yeah, that image we saw at the beginning, there's a lot of history behind it. But the thing that stands out the most to me is the leak. The early leak of the Digital Circus episode 9 by a Brazilian dubbing studio. Fans started asking Gooseworx what she thought about the situation and whether she was gonna do anything about it. And her response was simple: who cares? 2 words, and that was enough to start another fire. Suddenly people were saying that she didn't care about her own show, that she was ungrateful toward the community that made her famous. Some people even canceled their tickets for the finale. But here's the part a lot of people forget. Gooseworx didn't leak the episode. She had absolutely nothing to do with it, and yet she ended up receiving most of the backlash. At that point, it felt like the problem had stopped being Digital Circus. The problem was Gooseworx and the fandom. The backlash got so bad that when Gooseworx moved over to Blue Sky, a much smaller platform that many people consider less toxic than Twitter, she ended up running into the exact same problems she was trying to leave behind. And that's when a post appeared that caught a lot of people's attention. I really just can't keep my heart in this thing anymore. It's gotten too much bigger than me. And honestly, I think that statement is far more important than the leak itself. Because a leak can be forgotten. An internet argument can be forgotten too. But when the creator of a series starts talking about their own creation like that, we're dealing with something completely different. After reading all of that, it's hard to imagine Gooseworx sitting down and excitedly planning a second season. Because honestly, the Amazing Digital Circus still feels like the kind of series that could last for years. It has deep characters, unsolved mysteries, and a practically limitless universe. Even after episode 9, many of those questions are still unanswered. There's still material for another season. Gooseworx still has the ability to make more, but I don't think all of the blame falls on the fandom either. And I know that's probably gonna upset some people. Because yes, the attacks happened. Some people behaved like complete idiots. And parts of the community turned almost every discussion into a war. But Gooseworx still had options. She could have stepped away, closed her social media accounts, ignored the comments, or simply stopped reading what people were saying. At the end of the day, nobody was making the story for her. Nobody wrote to episode 9 or made major decisions behind the scenes. All of that was still under her control. That's why I think the truth is somewhere between in the middle. The fandom helped create the problem, but Gooseworx didn't do much to distance herself from it either. And after years of that constant pressure, we ended up exactly where we are now. Episode 9 left several storylines open, several mysteries unsolved, and more than enough ideas to keep expanding this universe for years. That's why so many people still talk about a second season. Not because Digital Circus feels unfinished, but because it still feels like a world with a lot more stories left to tell. And honestly, I don't think Digital Circus ran out of stories. I don't think Gooseworx ran out of ideas either. What seems to have run out is her patience. And that's what makes the situation so frustrating. Because if we ever get a second season, more spin-offs, or some kind of continuation, it probably won't be Digital Circus needed to continue. It'll be because someone else decided to continue it. Maybe Gooseworx eventually sells the rights to Netflix, or to someone she trusts to carry the story forward without losing what made it special. But at that point, it won't really be more Gooseworx anymore. So tell me, did the fandom actually ruin the future of Digital Circus? Or did Gooseworx simply get tired of everything that came with success?